episode 2 of the 6-part series on leadership. My name is Adrian. Once again, I'm here with strategic leadership trainer and psychologist Adrian McInman. In episode 1, we discuss destructive leadership. Today, we examine grandiose narcissism. Please, could you remind us what destructive leadership is?
Destructive leadership is intentionally harmful, affects legitimate interests, is selfish, and occurs repeatedly. Examples of destructive leadership include demanding bribes and participating in corruption. Such leaders are oftentimes given labels such as authoritarian, grandiose narcissistic, and Machiavellian.
Great. What's narcissism?
Technically, there's no such thing as only narcissism. Rather, there's grandiose narcissism and vulnerable narcissism. Vulnerable narcissism is uncommon. Such individuals feel empty, helpless, and shameful. They have low self-esteem and they appear self-absorbed, entitled, and distrusting. Grandiose narcissism is more common. These individuals think they are great and special and that they should be admired and respected. Such individuals have inflated views of themselves, are self-absorbed and vain. When individuals use the word narcissistic, they are almost certainly referring to grandiose narcissism. As for destructive leadership, it's an umbrella term encompassing leaders with various characteristics and traits. Leaders who routinely display vulnerable narcissistic or grandiose narcissistic traits would fall in the category of destructive leaders.
Okay, so let's focus on grandiose narcissism. Could you please explain grandiose narcissism in greater detail?
Such individuals have an inflated self-image and entitled attitudes, which are not aligned with their low skills and accomplishments. But they don't see it that way, partly because they don't notice the negative aspects about themselves. In fact, they may even indulge in fantasies of praise, perfection, and superiority. They can be attention-seeking and socially charming, while also being exploitative and arrogant. It's easy to understand grandiose narcissism when you consider its origin, which is the mythical Greek character Narcissus, who fell in love with his image reflected in a puddle of water.
It appears to me that some grandiose narcissistic characteristics might be helpful for leadership. Is this true?
Definitely. They tend to be happy and have high self-esteem, so they're likely to be confident and adept at self-promotion. Their employees are likely to see them as forward-driven, charismatic leaders who have the skills necessary to communicate courageous visions. Hence, compared with other leaders, they're likely to be more involved in things like mergers and acquisitions and invest in new technology. However, the negative consequences of grandiose narcissism far outweigh the benefits. They tend to be callous, manipulative, non-empathic, and dominate people. They hinder the collaboration in teams, participate in non-sustainable window dressing activities, and put the organization's reputation at risk. One author has likened being led by a grandiose narcissist to eating chocolate cake, in that the first bite is usually highly gratifying, but after a while, nausea is induced.
Could you give me an example of a grandiose narcissistic leader?
Sure, an often cited example is Jean-Marie Messier, the CEO of the French water utility. He was famous for ending his emails with J6M, which translated into English means Jean-Marie Messier, myself, master of the world. More well-known leaders include Adolf Hitler, Saddam Hussein, and Steve Jobs.
I understand these people can be unpleasant, but why are they considered destructive?
Regardless of whether you like Donald Trump or not, who many consider the epitome of grandiose narcissism, these are the words that Judge Arthur Engoron wrote, having found Trump guilty in a New York civil fraud case. The frauds found here leap off the page and shock the conscience. His destructive nature not only led to his $355 million fine for lying for years about his financial records, but caused havoc by firing many employees, causing others to resign, and denying the official result of the 2020 presidential election.
So, what could we do to decrease the likelihood of a leader developing grandiose narcissistic traits?
Avoid hiring or promoting the wrong people. However, if they are already in power, then use a system of checks and balances to decrease the likelihood of further increasing grandiose narcissistic tendencies. For example, the roles of the board and CEO should be specifically and clearly detailed. If the leader is agreeable to education, then it might be possible to suggest to them to keep their life simple, not get carried away with star parties and power breakfasts, nurture their humility, understand their weaknesses, and reflect on their actions.
Okay. What advice do you have if a leader is becoming increasingly grandiose narcissistic?
Training can be provided, especially by an outside consultant who has expertise in business and psychology. However, most grandiose narcissistic leaders will be unwilling to accept such training. Even if they accept that a problem exists, they're likely to believe that they can solve their own problem. We should remember that most people don't change substantially over a lifetime, so a sensible approach may be to move the leader out of harm's way. If that's not possible, the board should distribute the power more broadly. It would also be useful to assign strong, confident individuals to work with the grandiose narcissistic leader and keep inexperienced and insecure subordinates away. Feedback to the grandiose narcissistic leader should be provided by groups, as the leader will perceive it as harder to ignore than coming from a single person.
Do you have any final advice?
Don't confront the grandiose narcissistic leader directly. Instead of entertaining a problematic conversation with the leader, request more time to consider the matter. Bring other people to the subsequent meeting and take notes. If the topic is not worth talking about, ask for more time to consider the matter and avoid setting a date for another meeting. Finally, remember, a true leader has integrity, is ethical, does not depend on the approval of others to build self-esteem, and doesn't get rattled in a crisis.